What is up, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video where we talk all things NBA basketball. And we have a very special episode for y'all today, man. Very special episode where we talk about my mid-season playoff predictions. Now, before we even get into it, I just want to make sure that y'all leave a like and subscribe and comment down below what you guys think about these playoff predictions. Now, as I'm recording this video, it is March 17th, so the trade deadline has not yet passed. The trade deadline is going to be on March 25th. The All-Star break has passed. We're now in like the middle to late part of the season, kind of moving towards March Madness in the NCAA, but obviously this is an NBA video. So if there are trades that happen before or after I record and publish this video, then I can't really take into account for those trades in my predictions. So hopefully y'all understand, man, because this is just as of March 17th. What do I think the seedings are going to look like? Because, you know, things can fluctuate between then. Obviously this year they have 10 teams with the playing games from 7 through 10. So we'll see how that all works out and all plays out. So make sure y'all leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below what y'all think about this video. It really helps out the channel, man. So without further ado, in the Eastern Conference, my number one seed will be the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the reason that I have the Brooklyn Nets as number one is because right now they have been on a tear recently without their best player, in my opinion, in Kevin Durant, and without their new addition in Blake Griffin. Now, how they'll fit Blake Griffin into the picture is yet to be seen, because Blake Griffin is a guy that in Detroit wasn't really playing his best, but a lot of people believe that it was because it was in Detroit. It was in a situation he didn't want to be in, right? So now that he wants to be in Brooklyn, you know, he forced a buyout, not forced, but he made a buyout deal happen with the Pistons so that he could be on the Nets. People think that he's going to be a little bit more motivated. Now, I do think that he's lost a step off of, you know, what he was, you know, previously, but he's still a guy that can contribute on a solid team, and he's better than nothing, basically. So that's why I think Blake Griffin coming into this team and Kevin Durant being back healthy, obviously they're taking that injury very cautious, and even without those two players, they look like a very good team, and they look like the team to beat coming out of the East. So I do have them finishing as the one seed because they do have a lot of momentum, and I can safely say that they have guys coming back that will definitely add to their roster right now. At number two, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, currently they're the number one seed in the East, but I do think losing Joel Embiid for a couple of weeks is going to be hurting them, but not that much because they still have a very solid team after Joel Embiid. I just think that the Brooklyn Nets are on a tear right now, and without Joel Embiid, I don't really trust the 76ers to keep their momentum going on the same pace as the Brooklyn Nets. Now, I do think come playoff time, it'll be very interesting to see if this team is real or if it's not, because throughout the regular season, they have been dominating a lot of teams with fully healthy, with Joel Embiid on the roster. So we're going to have to see if that translates to playoff basketball, because we know that sometimes number one seeds like the Milwaukee Bucks in the past and like the Toronto Raptors in the past, before Kawhi Leonard got there, we all knew that come playoff time, they weren't going to look the same team. So we're going to have to see that from the Sixers, because this is really the first team that we saw, apart from that slight glimpse of where Jimmy Butler was with the Sixers, that looks like a very complete team. So we'll see how that translates come playoff basketball. But at this moment in time, I have the Sixers finishing as the number two seed in the East. At number three, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, I do think it's a very good thing that the Milwaukee Bucks are going very unnoticed this year. The last couple of years, there has been a severe microscope on them because they have finished in the number one seed spot in the last 2 years. A lot of people were expecting some more of a playoff performance that they showed against the Toronto Raptors and against the Miami Heat. Let's be honest, they just folded. And we kind of all knew that after the first year against the Raptors, we kind of all knew that the blueprint was out to stop Giannis Antetokounmpo and his Milwaukee Bucks, and the Miami Heat did basically the same and a little bit more than what the Raptors did against the Milwaukee Bucks last year in the playoffs. Now, whether that's going to change this year, I don't know. I'm a firm believer that until they fire Mike Budenholzer, I'm not really sure that's going to change, because I do think their weaknesses in the playoff time will come down to two things. Number one, obviously we know that Giannis is not really a threat from 15 feet out. Like, he's not really a guy that scares me. shooting the 3 ball, or even the long mid-range shot. He has worked on that, but still teams are going to dare him to shoot that come playoff time. And number 2, their coaching setup is one where they allow the most threes, and if you knock down your threes, then you're probably gonna win the game. The Miami Heat didn't win against the Milwaukee Bucks because Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo were putting up 50 points per game. It was because of the shooters like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson, Goran Dragic, Jay Crowder, guys like this who flourished off of the open threes that the Milwaukee Bucks gave up. And also, I don't trust Coach Budenholzer to play Giannis more than 36 minutes in the playoffs, and which is very, very weird because that's what you should do with your superstar. But for some reason, he has been limiting Giannis and Chris Middleton's minutes in the playoffs. Maybe that will change. I hope it changes for the sake of their team. And I hope that Coach Budenholzer has Giannis guard the opposition's best player, unlike last year, down the stretch. So these things kind of make me not as wary of the Bucks as I was against the Raptors, because I wasn't really sure if they were real or not. There's a stigma around the Bucks that come playoff time they're gonna choke, and I hope that they prove me wrong, because I do want to see Giannis be successful, but we're gonna have to see what happens. At number 4, I have the Miami Heat. Now currently they are at the 4th spot in the East. I do think that with their roster coming back healthy, they're going to be a force to reckon with in the Eastern Conference, depending on what they do at the trade deadline as well. They are looking to add Trevor Ariza, if I'm not mistaken. That came out yesterday, so we'll see if that happens or not. But yeah, I have the Miami Heat at 4. Jimmy Butler has been on a tear. They have won, I think, 10 of their last 11. So they've been very good recently, the Miami Heat, and hopefully they can continue that, because I do want them to prove a lot of people wrong, saying that they were a fluke when the roster wasn't really just healthy. So yeah, I have the Miami Heat at 4. At number 5, I have the Boston Celtics. Now currently they're the number 6 seed in the Eastern Conference, but I do think that they will finish as the 5 seed once the season ends. The reason for this being that I don't think Danny Ainge is just going to sit there and watch his team lose some of the games that they have been losing. They lost to the Utah Jazz last night, which I don't think was a bad loss, because the Utah Jazz have the best record in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. But still, it's not, they do have some weaknesses, and I think their number one weakness is their depth. With the Boston Celtics, beyond Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, who do you trust to show up consistently? I don't know. Kemba Walker has been on and off this season. Marcus Smart has just come back from an injury, and apart from those people, I don't really trust anyone else in the rotation to do much. So there have been talks with Harrison Barnes. There have been talks with Jeremy Grant. Whatever they do, they're gonna have to make a move, and Danny Ainge is gonna have to do something, because this team is just not deep enough. And come playoff time, you're gonna need other guys to step up, apart from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Or if Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have some off nights, someone's gonna have to pick up the slack. We have yet to seen a game where Kemba and Jason and Jaylen are all clicking on full cylinders, and hopefully that happens. But if it doesn't, then there's gonna be some serious question marks about Danny Ainge and his roster construction this year. They do have a trade exception, but I don't know if they're going to be using it. That trade exception was from the Gordon Hayward thing. When Gordon Hayward went to the Hornets, they got a $30 million trade exception. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see what happens with the Celtics. At the number 6 seed, I do have the Charlotte Hornets finishing here. I do think that the Charlotte Hornets they've impressed me a lot, man. I do think that the Hornets are very fun team to watch. LaMelo Ball looks like he's gonna run away with Rookie of the Year, and even beyond that, Terry Rozier is a guy that, man, Terry Rozier, like, I was questioning that the Charlotte Hornets paid him that amount of money last year, and this year he's proved me wrong. They have such a fun team. Gordon Hayward is another all-star caliber player, so Devontae Graham off the bench, PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, these guys are box office. The Charlotte Hornets are probably my favorite team to watch, apart from my team, which is the Miami Heat. The Charlotte Hornets are completely proving a lot of people wrong. They proved me wrong. I thought they were going to finish at the 12th or 13th. So shout out to the Hornets, man. They're doing their thing, and hopefully I put them at 6, because I'm putting faith in LaMelo and Terry Rozier and them boys to carry them to the 6th seed, and hopefully they do. It was tough between them and the Hawks, but the Hawks are 7. I put the Hawks at 7 because I do think that the Atlanta Hawks will they already started to pick it up after they fired Lloyd Pierce. Nate McMillan is their new coach now. They're still yet to get some guys back. I think Chris Dunn is still injured. Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter either just came back or are still injured. And I think Onyeka Okongwu has been in and out. So we'll see what happens with the Hawks, man. I do think that the Hawks, come playoff time, will be a nice team to watch as well because of the amount of firepower that they have. And apparently they were trying to flip Rondo as well at the trade deadline. So we'll see what happens with the Hawks, but I do have them finishing at the 7th seed. At the 8th seed, I have the Toronto Raptors. Now currently they are at the 11th spot, but the reason that I have the Toronto Raptors finishing at the 8th seed is because of injuries. And the reason that a lot of people are writing this team off is because I don't know why. But they've suffered a lot of injuries. The Toronto Raptors have had a lot of players missing time, and I do think that they'll pick up the slack once guys like Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam and all those people come back. Shout out to Norman Powell, who's been killing this year. Great season for Norman Powell, man. He's been on a tear recently. But yeah, Toronto Raptors. They're a team that the Brooklyn Nets or the Sixers wouldn't want to face in the first round. I'll tell you that, because they're a team that has playoff experience. And with Kyle Lowry leading that team, whatever happens at the trade deadline, if they trade him or keep him, we'll see what happens. But I have them finishing 8th as of right now. At number 9, I have the New York Knicks. Now the Knicks have been proving a lot of people wrong recently with what they've been doing. I think they're on a 2-game losing streak, but both of those games have been really, really competitive and close. So shout out to the Knicks for doing their thing. The New York Knicks are a team that's led by Julius Randle and Tom Thibodeau, preaches defense. And honestly, the reason I don't have them higher is because of their strength of schedule. They have the second hardest schedule in the NBA remaining, and I do think that it's going to get tougher and tougher for them, especially guys like D Rose and them are missing time. So yeah, I have the New York Knicks finishing at the 9th spot, but they're going to be a team in that playing game. A lot of teams ain't going to want to face the New York Knicks. So yeah, New York Knicks at number 9. And at number 10, finally, I have the Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers are a team that they were up and down. They started off the season really well, but they kind of just they lost their momentum, and currently they're kind of on a skid right now. They just lost their last game against the Denver Nuggets, if I'm not mistaken. So the Indiana Pacers are a team that just got Karis LeVert back, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Miles Turner, because there are a lot of contending teams interested in trading for a guy with like Miles Turner, who has a lot of different talents that could be used on a contending team. He can protect the rim and stretch the floor. Like, what else wouldn't you want from a center, man? So I don't know. I mean, the Sabonis Turner combo, on the eye maybe has worked, but statistically we don't know. I do think Sabonis shapes out to be a center in the modern day NBA. So we'll see what happens with that team as far as Miles Turner is concerned. But I do think that this is a very gritty team. They're always a team that's gonna fight come playoff time, and they're gonna be in that playing game, in my opinion. So we're not gonna want to underestimate this team. At number 11, I wasn't gonna do all the 15 teams in the East or the West, but I just wanted to give the team that almost made the cut but did not. I have the Washington Wizards. The reason that I have the Washington Wizards over the Chicago Bulls is because they have 2 all-star caliber players. Shout out to the Bulls. Hopefully they prove me wrong, but I just don't see them doing what they're doing consistently. The Washington Wizards are a team that when those 2 guys are clicking on all cylinders, they'll always have a chance with Westbrook and Beal. So moving on to the Western Conference now. Let's get into the West, man. At number 1, Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz is at number 1. The reason that the Jazz are at number 1 is because they have consistently shown that they can play with any team in the NBA. Just beat the Celtics. Very good win for them. Rudy Gobert has been a very impactful player. I don't know if that justifies his contract, but I mean, he's so good. Like, Rudy Gobert's impact is so underrated. Donovan Mitchell is a guy that come crunch time, he can give the ball and he can go to work. I've always loved this Jazz team. It's a very underrated team in my eyes. Jordan Clarkson is a guy that can just fill it up off the bench. You got guys like Bojan Bogdanovic and Joe Ingles that are 3-and-D players. I love the construction of this team, and I love Quinn Snyder. I think he's gonna win Coach of the Year. Him or Doc Rivers, or maybe Steve Nash, but I do think it's gonna go to Quinn Snyder. So, yeah, shout out to the Utah Jazz. At number 2, I have the Los Angeles Clippers. The reason I have the Clippers here is because I do think that the Clippers will start to pick it up. Hopefully, they can make a trade for a point guard. I do want to see them with a lead guard that can, do something. Like Patrick Beverley's cool, but besides his defense and, spot up shooting, he's not a guy who's going to be a lead guard, right? So I want a guy who's going to, like a Terry Rozier is someone that they're interested in, like a George Hill. I know George Hill is, he's not the same player he was before, but it'll be cool to see him and Paul George team up back again, and he can be that lead guard again. So I have the Clippers at 2. Shout out to the Clippers for winning against the Mavericks recently. I think they're playing them again tonight, so shout out to the Clippers. Lakers at 3. The reason I have the Lakers at 3 is because they have LeBron James. I mean, like, even without Anthony Davis, LeBron's going to keep that team afloat. AD is going to come back, though, and hopefully AD comes back the same. We don't want to see him, take any injury hit or anything like that. Like, we want to see fully healthy AD. We want to see all these teams fully healthy come playoff time. We don't want all these, they weren't healthy. We want to see all these teams healthy. So when AD comes back, though, it'll still be a very scary team. And come playoff time, no one's gonna want to face this team, man. They have the championship experience already. So LeBron and AD come playoff time is gonna be scary. At number 4, I have the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns are going to be taking a little bit of a dip because they're still very new as far as playoffs are concerned. I know that their leader is one of the most experienced players in the league, but after that, who do I really trust come playoff time? I'm not sure, because we haven't seen Devin Booker in those moments. I love Devin Booker, but the closest thing we've seen from Devin Booker in, when it matters is that 8-0 bubble run. Will he be able to replicate what he's doing right now in the playoffs is yet to be seen. Same with DeAndre Ayton. I haven't seen anything of DeAndre Ayton to show me that, like, when we're getting close to the playoffs, he's gonna up his game. But the Suns are still gonna be a team that no one's gonna want to face because they have so many weapons. I love their 3-and-D wings: Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson. These are guys that can switch multiple positions, knock down threes. Chris Paul being the leader, Devin Booker being the bucket getter, DeAndre Ayton being the guy down low that when he's aggressive, he can be a monster down there. So yeah, I'm very happy with what Monty Williams has done with the Suns team. So shout out to the Suns. At number 5, I have the Portland Trailblazers. Now, the reason that I have them at number 5 is because CJ McCollum has, I think, just came back or is coming back soon, and same with Yusuf Nurkic. So when this team gets these two guys back, it's going to be very scary because right now Dame is keeping this team afloat somehow. And man, like with those two guys back, like the sky's the limit. I like the offseason pickups that they did with Derrick Jones Jr., Robert Covington. Gary Trent Jr. is a very underrated player. He's a 3-and-D guy. And man, they just have a lot of weapons. And I heard they're trying to trade for Aaron Gordon. So if that works, that's another wing for them that can play defense, stretch the floor, everything. So shout out to the Trailblazers for beating the Pelicans last game. That was a crazy comeback win. Shout out to Dame for the 50-piece. At number 6, I have the Dallas Mavericks. Now, this might be a little bit of a stretch, but the reason I have the Dallas Mavericks here is because they have one of the easiest schedules in the NBA remaining. And Luka Doncic is a guy that, man, he's out of all the rest of these teams, Luka is the best player. So shout out to Luka. He's a monster, man. Luka Doncic is a monster. And with Porzingis coming back healthy, it adds another dynamic for their team. And a lot of their roster has been, in and out, but with their roster coming back, they're going to be scary. Another team that no one's going to want to face in the playoffs. At number 7, I have the Denver Nuggets. Now, they're going to be taking a little bit of a drop. I do think that not having Jeremy Grant has hurt them a lot, but I still like their team. I like the Denver Nuggets. When we talk about drafting and, developing players, we do have guys like, we have obviously the top teams are like the Heat, the Raptors, the Thunder, but the Nuggets are a team that really drafts a lot of good players, man, a lot of good talent, and finds a lot of these guys that a lot of people didn't take chances on, like Campazzo. What a pickup. I know they didn't draft him, but what a pickup. I love Zeke Naji. I love Bol Bol, Michael Porter Jr. people like this, RJ Hampton has shown flashes. So people like this, the Nuggets are very good at. They're a very underrated team at developing and finding young talent. So I have them at 7, and Jokic is gonna do his things. And yeah, we're gonna have to see if Jamal Murray does what he did last year in the playoffs. But it's gonna be interesting to see what he does. At number 8, I do have I have the Golden State Warriors at number 8. Stephen Curry is I think good enough to carry his team. I don't really I know his pieces, what he has around him isn't the best, but when Andrew Wiggins is clicking, Stephen Curry is doing what he does, Kelly Oubre and Draymond Green being that leader, it's good. I like this team. With Klay Thompson, it would have been a much more fun team to watch. But I do think that this team they have something going on. It's just a matter of fact of how much Steph Curry can carry them. And if he's having an off night, who's going to take over? That's what I worry about this team for. So I don't think this team is for this year. I think it's for next year when Klay comes back. But they can still be a team that, takes a few games off the number 1 seed if they can. At number 9, I have the San Antonio Spurs. Shout out to the Spurs. They're buying out LaMarcus Aldridge. We'll see where he goes. But they do have DeRozan. They have Keldon. I love Keldon Johnson. The Spurs are another team who find young talent and develop them. I forgot about the Spurs. Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, Lonnie Walker, Derek White. Amazing. They have a very good young core. So shout out to the Spurs for that. At number 11 or number 10, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. Zion and Brandon Ingram. I know they just laid an egg against the Trailblazers after they blew that lead. But Zion and Brandon Ingram, I feel, are good enough to carry that team to the 10 seed. And if they're not, then there has to be serious questions about Stan Van Gundy's future. But I love B.I. Zion is a guy that, he's top 5 probably in his, in under 25 that I'd build around for the future. He's up there for sure. He's just a beast. Lonzo Ball has been playing pretty well recently. But apparently they're trying to trade him or JJ Redick, so we'll see what they do with that. But I do think this team needs to get to the playoffs. They have, at least to the playing game. They had some high expectations, man, and I've been disappointed in some of their performances because I really like this team, the pieces of this team. Some of the decisions they made in drafting were kind of head scratching. I like Kyra Lewis, but I don't think New Orleans was a good situation for him because they traded for Eric Bledsoe. They have Lonzo Ball and Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So I don't really see where Kyra Lewis is getting these minutes from. He's been playing recently, but at the start of the season, he wasn't playing at all. I don't like how Stan Van Gundy starts Bledsoe and Lonzo together. I would much rather see JJ Redick in the starting lineup to help with the shooting around Zion. But yeah, we'll see what happens, man. With Zion and Ingram, they're good enough to face anyone. So the Pelicans for me are at 10. At 11, I have the Memphis Grizzlies. I do think that the Memphis Grizzlies will still be in the mix with John Morant, Jaren Jackson coming back, Justice Winslow coming back recently. But I just don't think that they have enough as far as depth is concerned come playoff time or come, business end of the season closer to the playoffs. But I do think it's going to be close between them and the Pelicans. I think the other teams are set, but I do think between the 10 seed, between the Grizzlies and the Pelicans, and maybe even, some other teams that I'm about to name, it's going to be interesting. At number 12, I have the Sacramento Kings. The Sacramento Kings, I do think we'll start to pick it up. De'Aaron Fox, Marvin Bagley just got injured. De'Aaron Fox has been trying to keep that team afloat, but when Marvin Bagley gets back healthy, I love the construction of this team. I just don't like Luke Walton as their coach. Hopefully they get a different coach, man, because Luke Walton is really killing some of these guys out there, and a lot of Kings fans will tell you the same. But De'Aaron Fox is a guy that's very underrated. I really thought he should have been in consideration for the All-Star team. I don't even think people gave him a chance. So shout out to De'Aaron Fox. At number 13, this was very tough. This was very, very tough. But I'm going to go with the OKC Thunder. I'm going to go with the OKC Thunder because I do think the Houston Rockets are going to make some moves at the deadline to try to blow up their team. So OKC Thunder for me because they're very competitive. This is a team that I didn't really expect to do what they're doing right now. 17-23 is not the best record, but I predicted them to have the worst record in the West. So Yeah, OKC Thunder for me. And obviously Rockets and Timberwolves right after that. I don't really have to explain about the Timberwolves situation, but I do think the Rockets will be better once Christian Wood comes back. So, I mean, that was a pretty nice video, man. A long video for y'all about my playoff predictions. As far as, you know, right now is the midseason, before the trade deadline. We'll see what happens. Like, I'm not some NBA expert. These are just my predictions. If you guys disagree, feel free to let me know down in the comments. And yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens because the trade deadline is coming in very, very soon, actually. So teams are gonna have to make some moves, and I believe there'll be some moves made this trade deadline. So shout out to you guys, man. Shout out to the viewers out there. If you guys are watching this video, y'all are the best. Make sure y'all leave us a like and subscribe. I'll see y'all later, man. Peace.